As the gender war rages on, in order to keep the peace, we must discuss the exact facts. Welcome to Ex-Faktly. I'm your host, Saudi Ma'am. Remove your shoes, enter upon your right foot, upon the right state of mind, bi'idhnillah. Topic, policing the Kufr state of domestic violence. Policing the Kufr state of domestic violence. Now, there were a couple of ways I could have went with this, and I decided to go, basically I simped out. I decided to go with the softest way. If you don't find this way soft, then that's the best I can do. The domestic violence issue is not only touching the kuffar, but it is also touching the Muslim community. Why? Because we are living in Dal Kufr. Upon every speck of dirt, upon every grain of sand on this earth, nowhere is Islam ruling. So therefore, the protections that Allah Ta'ala gave to the women and men in instances concerning Islam's social system would not exist without the system itself existing. So a lot of us like to hope for and call for and execute Islam without Islam. And what I mean is that Islam is a system. Islam is a system, and Islam is not meant to be a bottom feeder under a different system. Islam was not sent to clean the kufr, but Islam was sent to be its own system and to eradicate the kufr. So, because we as Muslims are not practicing Islam on the level of La ilaha illallah or Muhammadan Rasulullah, and we're not saying as individuals, we're saying as an ummah, uh, as we are ordered to as an ummah, as one solid cemented structure, as Jasad and Wahida, under one ruler. Because we're not doing such, then we are going to feel all of the effects that the kuffar are feeling, and we will go through all of the trauma that they are going through. So therefore, this topic of domestic violence is pertinent for us as well. Some would like to think because Allah Ta'ala talks about in Quran, He talks about nashaza and nushuz, disloyalty, ill conduct, marital discord. After Allah Ta'ala defines the righteous women, Allah Ta'ala says, as to those women, another group of type of women. Some of us have met those types. Some of us may have not. Maybe Allah blessed you have not met those types. But there's another type of woman that does not behave righteously. She's not in a feminine frame. She's more of in a masculine frame, and therefore the threat is there because domestic violence doesn't just happen to women, which are the weaker, fairer gender, but it also happens to men at a higher clip than folks will admit, at a higher clip than folks will admit or are willing to admit. Nevertheless, in this kufr state that we are in, because in the Muslim lands, there tends to be a facade of Islam. There tends to be a facade of Islam, but actually the rulers and the system is not Islamic. And this is something that we will talk about on Amoo Yum Yum AYYTP, Amoo Yum Yum the podcast. We will talk about that more. How the system of Islam is under attack and it does not even exist. The purpose is to prevent or to stifle or to stunt revival. But nevertheless, we're here upon domestic violence, and I found some funny inconsistencies, some subhanallah, uh, For instance, let's put it here. The burden of proof, we know Islamically, is upon the accuser. Islamically, if I'm eating something, okay, and you say that that thing is haram, you have to bring me the proof with that. By your accusation that I'm eating something that is not halal, I don't have to prove what I'm eating is halal. You know, you have to prove what I'm eating is haram. Okay. Nevertheless, the burden of proof when it comes to domestic violence is on the accused. Someone can just accuse you. Mainly this is the female toward the male. Female is accusing the male. The burden of proof is on the accused. This is how the courts handle it. So by the very virtue that they accused you of something, you're guilty, excuse me, you're guilty before proven innocent. If you're ever proven innocent, and we'll talk about what happens even after you are proven innocent. In Texas, for instance, hurt feelings count as abuse. Babe, do I look fat in this dress? You look fat in every dress, babe. Hello, 911. I've been abused. You think I'm exaggerating? In Texas, hurt feelings is considered abuse. I don't know if this reigns true for other states. I didn't go that deep into the research. I'm in Texas. I'm using Texas as an example, not to belabor the point. Okay, I'm not here to give a bunch of statistics. I'm here to offer the reality and the solution to follow that, inshallah ta'ala. If she's feeling sensitive, she says, don't touch me. You call me fat, don't touch me. And you put your hand on her shoulder and say, babe, I'm just joking. That touch on her shoulder, domestic abuse. If she accuses you, that's domestic abuse. She determines if it is or not. If she is feeling sensitive. This is in the law books. Talk to a lawyer. Talk to a Texas lawyer or any lawyer in a state in which this also reigns true. Hand on the shoulder. You can try to hug her, try to console her. Babe, I'm just joking. Give me a hug. Rape, I should say grape, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, nevertheless, this is what happens. This is the Kufr state of domestic violence. No matter how benign, you can be accused. You can be accused. He closed the door. To close the door can be considered kidnapping. You live in the same home. You live in the same home. If you close a door, you can be considered a domestic abuser or even a kidnapper. A kidnapper or a what do you call those people that hold people hostage? I don't know, hostage taker. Um, it gets quite ridiculous, you know. And if we truly had equal rights between male and female, as the West is trying to promote, then it should just be a fight. It should be two dudes knuckling up, you know, two men knuckling up, a man and a woman knuckling up. It shouldn't be a domestic violence thing if things were totally equal, you know. So obviously there's no equality because the way things are handled, how men are laughed at when they're abused, but women are applauded as champions. Just as someone mentioned that there are 1,000 plus battered women shelters, and there's only one battered man shelter in the United States. I'm not saying a place where men can go if they're homeless, if they need resources, help, social services. I'm talking about specifically for abuse, okay? Domestic abuse. Now, if she says even after closing the door, we know how ludicrous that sounds. We're not saying you locked her in a room, which is her house. You have the right to lock her in a room, but we move past that, subhanAllah. Um, I don't feel safe. Simply, 911, I don't feel safe. I'll say it again. Maybe you don't believe me. 911, I don't feel safe. And for that reason, you can be accused of uh, domestic violence. Now let's go to the false accusations. This comes from research and lawyers speak, law firm, whatever. So we're saying reasons for false accusations. We all have our anecdotal experiences, but when you add up all the anecdotal experiences that seem to be very common, what you have is facts. What you have is the reality staring you right in the face. Now, after I mention all this, you might say, man, marriage doesn't seem like something I want to get involved in. Well, again, Islam was revealed as solution, not to clean kufr, but to purify the society as Islam rules over all systems because it's from Allah Ta'ala. So, nevertheless, reasons for false accusations, separations. Y'all separated. That's enough for a false accusation. Divorce. Talaktaki, I divorce you. Okay, that's enough for a false accusation. Child custody. Oh, we got children. He ain't finna take my kids. As someone keeps telling me, uh, such and such is a mother state. Well, is Allah your God? Or are you gonna stop fronting and faking in front of everybody? For the gram, or for social media. Is Allah your God, or is Georgia or any other state, Texas or whatever, your God? Because they give you reward. They give you the ajr. They give you the ajr. Allah, the ajr comes from Allah Ta'ala. Okay, but they are offering you ajr in this dunya of denying the father, the child, and all this other type of stuff. So you run with that. Why? Because it fits your nafs. Just like when you don't feel safe. So nevertheless, there's child custody involved. So to gain legal leverage, what do? False accusation. Because remember, the BOP, the burden of proof is on who? The accused. So someone says you did such and such. Now you got to jump through all these hoops, clear all these hurdles to prove what? That you didn't do the thing that they accuse you of. Man, I'm chilling. You bring the proof. The burden of proof is on the accuser, not the accusee, not the accused. Again, when it comes to domestic violence, you got that funny twist. Now the accused is automatically seen as the bad person. Okay, bad guy, bad person. So these are some reasons for it. To turn the child or children against the other parent. And children gravitate toward mom. They gravitate toward mom. That's just natural, okay? That's just natural. My daughters are clingy to me. My son is clingy to my wife. But if we ever got into physical altercation, I'm sure the kids are going, man, what's up with you, Dad? You know, I'm already the big bad wolf. So uh, this is the issue. So to turn the children against the other parent, you go to the kids and say, I, I didn't want to tell y'all, but you know, uh, your father hit me, and there's been a history of him hitting me and making me feel bad. And one time he closed the door and called me fat. You know, but nevertheless, this is what we are experiencing. This is the kufr state. So we're talking about policing the kufr state of domestic violence. We haven't got to Islam yet. He yelled. Do you know yelling can be interpreted as emotional abuse? Yelling, yeah. Men, have you seen, if you watch any type of Animal Kingdom videos, Natural Geographic, whatever, you'll see the male lion, the female lion. Them female lions can't yell as quite that male lion can put out that big roar. Female lions can't match it. So as men, we roar, and they can't roar as loud as we can. Maybe if they smoked a whole bunch of cigarettes in their life, but they can't roar as loud as we can. All of a sudden, we become the aggressor. You know, we become the assaulter. We become the abuser. Why? Because we yelled. This is actually facts. from lawyer speak, okay? Kufr lawyer speak. And I say Kufr lawyer, I don't mean the lawyers are kufar. I'm saying that this is the system that they are grabbing these instances from, okay? These facts from. He yelled. That's enough to be put in a category of abuser, okay? He restrained her from abusing him. There's a bruise on the wrist, sir. Come with us. Put your hands behind your back. Turn around. Let me read you your rights. Because there's a bruise on her arm or her wrist because you tried to stop her from busting your head to the white meat. Now you're an abuser. You're an abuser. And even, I know a bit of martial arts. And I know that in martial arts, even when you block, I'll give you a demonstration. When you make the X, you come out of the X block and you block, or you block overhead. You block overhead. Okay. That right there, those are meant to hurt the one that's trying to hurt you. That block is supposed to be so hard. When you go like this, when you're doing forms, and you're doing this, why is this elbow way back here? It's to hurt anyone that tries to attack you from behind. So not only you're pushing forward, you're pushing back. These are forms, okay? So therefore, sometime when people are trying to hurt you in self-defense, they may become injured or bruised. Then next thing you know, what? You're an abuser. You're an abuser, okay? This is police in the Kufr state of domestic violence. Even when proven false, okay, even when proven false, the accusation leaves a stain. How unfair. How unfair. He abused me. Found out that you didn't. Whether she put on social media, ha ha, he, or she texts one of her friends, I got him, girl. Yeah, yeah, that'll teach him, That's why I got his butt locked up. But he did hit you, right? Man, that boy better not hit me. He too weak to hit me, you know. Okay, your friend takes that text to someone else, and someone else takes it to the lawyer and say, look, we got some evidence on her. She lied. The stain is already on you, man. This is why namima, slander, carrying false tales about people is so looked at so bad in Islam. Ghiba, backbiting, is like eating the flesh of your brother. And slander is worse than backbiting, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Ghiba is to say something truthful. Slander is to say something false. And that falseness leaves a stain even after the allegation is refuted. 100% refuted. It's over. I didn't do it. Man, I heard, you know, ooh, I met this brother. He got this big head, you know, so on and so forth. I like this brother. Who is he? Oh, that's Amoo Yum Yum. Oh, wow. Girl, I heard he abuses. It's enough. You don't need no paperwork, no nothing. I've been accused of one of the most heinous things out of spite and revenge, because I wouldn't send somebody a cell phone payment. I was done. And they accused me of worse than domestic violence, okay? Guess what? It still haunts me today. You know why? Because a bunch of ignorance got a hold of it. Nothing you gonna do about that. If you oppress, make dua to Allah Ta'ala against them. Curse them. You know. La'an Allah al-namam. May Allah curse those that carry false tales and slander. So that's all that you really can do. Unless you meet them face to face and, catch a fair one, but that's how it is. Nevertheless, even when, acquitted or what have you, it leaves a stain. OJ was acquitted. He's still known as the man that killed his wife and a waiter. Okay. And it happens many, many times. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, Abdul Wali Muhammad, and also Abdullah Muhammad Bey and Matik McCall. Appreciate you, brothers, joining in. Um, Continuing, under consequences for being accused of domestic violence. Uh, let me back up. Someone accuses you of domestic violence through social media, personal text message. You find out, you get some evidence on them that they lied. You take it to the lawyer. You get out of prison or jail or whatever. You get, acquitted. Charges overturned. I'm sorry. My apologies. Charges overturned or what have you. Guess what happens as far as consequences? None for the accuser. Even for grape, and I use grape in place of RAPE, because YouTube be tripping, whatever. But nevertheless, even in the case of grape, where you forcefully, take, what have you, not talking about husband and wife, that's a different subject. Even in those cases, when you're acquitted, you know, that stain is on you. But if someone falsely accuses you, what happens? No penalty for the person that falsely accuses you. No penalty. In the case of false accusations of domestic violence, the consequences are upon the accused and not the accuser, even when you find out that it's false beyond a shadow of a doubt. The accused still suffers consequences. He still had to pay a lawyer. He had to pay a bail bondsman. He had to go to court. I don't care if he had to pay for parking. That's too much. That's too much because someone was vindictive, so on and so forth. That's too much. Too much. Nevertheless, the highest cases, I'm getting down to the policing part, the highest cases of domestic violence by occupation, number three, I'm going to just do three. Number three, military, soldiers, okay? Military. Stressful situation, you're fighting unjust wars, you are raping people, you are assaulting people, you are taking innocent lives, you are oppressing, you're doing all of that under freedom and democracy, okay? For capitalism, but under freedom and under the guise of freedom and democracy. That's the carrot you put out in front of the jackass to make the jackass move, okay? Democracy is the jackass. I mean, capitalism is the jackass, and the people. The people are the jackass. Democracy is capitalism is the stick, and the carrot is the democracy and freedom and all that kind of crap. I got it. Let me say it again because I jacked that up. The people are the jackasses. The stick is capitalism, and the carrot is democracy and freedom and whatever else they try to put off, as as the reasons. We're fighting them there, so we don't have to fight them here. Ain't nobody messing with you, man. Ain't nobody messing with you yet. So anyway, the highest cases, number three, I'll just do three. That's military personnel, COs, correctional officers, second highest of domestic violence. This is at home with their own family and folk. Okay, number one, the very people that answer the 911 call, the police. We're talking about police in the Kufr state of domestic violence. We haven't got to Islam yet. The police, they're answering the call. She, most of the time, he, almost the same amount of time, but less, calls the police and says, there is a problem. I need a peace officer. I need someone to come and handle this situation. It could, they're getting violent. It could get more violent. Let's say if it's an actual accusation, it actually has some merit. There's some violence there, okay, from her or him. The person that's answering the call has a higher rate of domestic violence than you do. Than you do. So you call them to. It's like going to the shayuk that sit under kings. They cement the throne of despotic rulers and corrupt rulers. The ulama as-salihin. That's like going to those scholars saying, how do we solve the issue in Palestine? How do we solve the issue in Burma? How do we solve the issue in Iraq, Afghanistan, so on and so forth? Fi kulli makan, every single place. How do we solve these issues? That's like going to one of them. You know what they're gonna tell you? Just make dua. You know why? Because they're just like the police. They are part and parcel complicit to the oppression that the Muslims are suffering from. How so? I'm not saying they're killing Muslims and raping and doing all this other type of stuff that the actual Kufar and the Yahud and whatever are doing, the Zionists are doing in our lands. Not saying that. I'm saying that they are complicit in that they tell you only make dua. Just make dua. Just make dua. Just make dua. Just make dua. That's their solution. So therefore, we continue to suffer. So therefore, they're perpetuating the suffering by not giving you the true solution because they want to keep their ivory tower. They want to keep their ivory tower that they was given to them by the king. So moving on from that. The police are answering the call to bring some peace, to restore some order, right? To clean up some mess, and they have a higher rate of domestic violence than any other person. How hypocritical. How hypocritical. It's like some people among the saved sect. Oh, we're the saved sect. We're going to heaven. You know, you people are in the hellfire. We're the one that Muhammad Sallam, said was the firqa najia. You know, we're the saved sect, so on and so forth. Uh, and they have the worst behaviors, the worst understanding of the deen, the least amount of knowledge as far as the deen. All they can do is, probably want a cracker. Repeat what some scholars said that offers no solution to the ailments or the ills of the ummah. Moving on from that, they are sent to settle these disputes, yet they are the number one in committing these same atrocities. So I wonder really how they view when they come to your house. You know, how do they view? Hey, they're trying to make peace, and they're going through worse than what you're going through. At their own homes. So, but that's for another time. Rates of abuse, male to female, is 40-60. Men are abused on a clip of 40%, approximately. And women are claiming abuse on a clip of 60%. Now, why do I say men are abused at a clip of 40% and women are claiming abuse at a clip of 60%? That sounds biased. That sounds misogynistic. Why? Men are not falsely accusing women. If a man has no resources for being abused. Remember, there's only one shelter for men that are abused in the United States. So men have no resources if they're abused. Okay? So what and men usually, oh, she's a this or that, try to get some leverage in the courts. Men are not gonna say, oh, she beats me up, she abuses me, you know. So on and so on, unless it's actually happening, unless he has actually scrapes and scars and scratches and bullet wounds and knife wounds and fractured bones and so on and so forth, then men will say this is happening. Okay, men are not falsely accusing women. Women are falsely accusing men. Why? Because just by the very fact that they accuse you is a stain you will never wash away. You would never wash. You can soak it overnight. That stain would not wash away. It would not wash away. So, what complicates these statistics? To be fair, men are abused at a higher rate, but are too ashamed to report it. That's the other fact. That's the other fact. Alhamdulillah, shukran, habibati. That's another fact. Walaikum salam, Jawad. I apologize. That's another fact. That men are generally too ashamed. So we say 40-60, and I say, accuse, are said to have at 60% for the male abusing female. because women are falsely accusing, and like the sister just said, men are ashamed to say that they're being abused. You know, they feel like it emasculates them that they say they're being abused. But you can't fight back. I just saw a Facebook post. It was two guys, consoling each other. One said, "Man, look at these scars. My girl just abused me," and the other dude posted, "Man, look at these scars. Burns. I mean, burns on him." And these people were, one looked Hispanic, light Hispanic, and one looked white. You really see bruises and scars on those skin tones, you know. So they're comparing scars, saying, "Yeah, I got abused too because she knew I couldn't hit her back." Why you can't hit her back? Because if you hit her back, you're an abuser, and then the number one abuser is going to come to your house and arrest you. That's what's going to happen. The number one abuser is going to come to your house, pound for pound. The Floyd Mayweathers of abuse of police, domestic abuse in their own homes, yet they come to alleviate your sorrows. So the guy said, "I was abused. I couldn't fight back. This is the results of it because," and guess what? These guys didn't call the police. Sadly. Sadly. So what complicates this issue of abuse, to be fair, is the boyfriend girlfriend. Because remember, the land of Kufr, policing the Kufr state of domestic violence. The boyfriend girlfriend issue complicates. Complicates. If you are not married to that woman, you just assaulted her. If you're not married to that man, you just assaulted him. It's not domestic except the Kufar recognize emotions. You love him? Yeah. You love her? Yeah. Domestic violence. That's what they see it as. They respect girlfriend, boyfriend. They respect it so much. If you live together for a certain amount of time, or you have a lease with both names on it, or you check into a hotel, even this is Texas common law, you check into a hotel in a drunken stupor, both inebriated, sign that uh, that uh, sign that receipt, Mr. and Mrs. That's a legal document. She can wake up in the morning from a hangover, roll out of bed, go down to the front desk and say, "Can I get a copy of that receipt that we signed?" And they'll copy it, and she has a legal document of marriage now because y'all were drunk out of y'all mind and you uttered the words Mr. and Mrs. Or you another common law unknown. This is called common law or informal marriage in the Texas law books and for other states that are common law states. They say if you tell two or more people that you're married, if you tell two or more people that you're married, you're married. But the girlfriend boyfriend issue complicates this domestic violence thing. If you're not married, it's just a fight. But if you're married, that's when it should be considered domestic violence, if that is a proper term. Brother Jawad said, "Do you think some women take men to the level of aggression and vice versa?" I do. I believe, I know for a fact, a lot of facts to back this up. Because, see, the thing about it, if you experienced 100 people, that's better than some statistic gatherer walking down the street in New York talking to 100 people. Because these are random people. And statistics are just instituted to bring awareness. They're not factual. Okay? Now, when people say 80% of divorces are initiated by women, that's something you can actually go down to the courthouse and look on the filings. That's not statistics. I mean that's statistics, of course, but it's also factual finding. It's not a survey. It's not a survey. Now, as to the reasons for it, if they don't put it on paper, then you go through the streets and ask 1,000 people, "Hey, what was the reason? Did you initiate divorce?" "Yes, I did." "What was the reason?" And then you get those types of reports. So it's not always anecdotal. It's not always just statistical, but actually a lot of this stuff is hard Facts, because it's filed. The one that initiates the filing, it's filed who initiated. Maybe they both went at the same time and she ran up the stairs a little faster. I don't know. Maybe she contacted a lawyer before he contacted his. But at the end of the day, 80% approximately women are filing for divorce over men. So again, boyfriend girlfriend complicates this particular issue. Now, what other thing complicates this issue? I bet you already got it. The LMNOP community. The LMNOP community. They complicate this issue to the max because lesbian relationships are known to be very violent, very violent, very violent. I remember long ago there was a Jerry Springer show. You know, uh, there was a Jerry Springer show where these two lesbians were on the show, and this was a long time ago. Two lesbians on the show, and one said, "I got something to tell you." You know, uh, I followed my nature and desired a man. You know, so the lesbian that is the more the lesbian that is more and mashallah Jawad, he says the LG HD TV 4K UHD community. I love that. I think you said that yesterday. So or Yusuf repeated you. It was nice. Like you say, I believe this is from the distorting gender roles of society. Yes, but the LMNOP community or the LGHD TV 4K UHD HDMI. Don't forget HDMI. Uh, those are a group that are oppressed even amongst them. But nevertheless, this lesbian, the bull dagger of them, grabbed her neck with her nails, and the Jerry Springer bodyguards, I forgot the name of them, had to jump up and grab her off the girl's neck. Now, have you seen a man? Hey, babe, I got something to tell you. What? I cheated with your brother. You never see the man grab the girl's neck like that. You don't see that. He's looking at them big bodyguards. Maybe that's part of the reason, but we just don't. You know, it's not something that men do. We get angry. We start yelling. We get aggressive. But we don't grab the neck. Do the research. I'm not going to quote statistics here, but do the research. Very violent relationships. And the same, with the sword fighters. The sword fighters have very violent relationships. You know what I'm saying? The act of sword fighting is very violent. You know, you got two swords, you need a sword in a sheath. You don't put two swords. That's violent. That is violent. Double in the bubble, very violent. But nevertheless, this complicates the issue. Now let's talk about Islam. Islamically, there is a time called An-Nushuz. Uh, I'll give you an example of An-Nushuz. This is from Kufr, not from an Islamic. I don't have. I have some examples of Islamic An-Nushuz, but I'm gonna give you an extreme because you know the detractors. Let them come. But nevertheless, a man is with his new girl in his car. He pulls up to a stop light or something. His ex and her friend sees the girl in the car. I don't know how they got him to get out the car. I don't know if he was blocked in by the other car. That could have been a possibility. The camera view didn't give me that. But what I witnessed was an attempted murder by his ex. What did she do? She got a, a can of gasoline and dumped it on his car and lit a match about to burn that girl alive inside that car. This man, for some reason, did not knock her head, you know, into the ground. He didn't drop kick her. He didn't suplex her. He didn't sweep the leg like Karate Kid. He didn't do the crane kick. None of that. But they didn't burn the girl up. But the gas was all on the car. And if it gets on the car, it gets on the one that's trying to burn. She about to set herself on fire. So I got my popcorn. I'm watching this whole thing. It's a video. So anyway, she tried to burn the girl alive. He not with you no more. He with the new girl. Like I say, the boyfriend and girlfriend thing confuses the issue. But let's say it was marriage. Your ex-wife dumping gas on your car, property, right? Property is sacred. Trying to burn up your new wife. Your wife life is sacred, you know. And this is what I witnessed. That's called Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi Jeremiah. So that's called Nishaza. She's in slang we call it doing too much. Doing too much, okay? Doing the most. She's trying to burn the girl alive inside the car. So we're talking about property, life, or limb, or just injury, extreme injury. You know, fire burning the dermis, you'll lose sensation. You'll lose, this is what a sensation is. So anyway, that's called a nushuz, a nashaza, if they were married, right? You're going above your station. She's in an extreme masculine frame, If they were married and the girl in the car was a second wife, Allah says warn them. In that situation, the warning is going to be swift. Separate the beds wouldn't be applicable because y'all outside and it's about to go down. Third, Islam allows you to grab her in a full Nelson. And a half Nelson may be sufficient, but the full Nelson is more. I prefer the full Nelson because they can't scratch you. But if you grab them in a half Nelson, it's possible. You grab them, under the arm, behind the neck. You grab them in a half Nelson. It's possible they could scratch you with the other arm. So I would recommend full Nelson. So you put them in a full Nelson, behind the neck, lock them up under the arms, and wait till the number one abusers show up with the flashy lights and arrest you for keeping her from killing your second wife. Allah says, warn them, separate the beds, and the ulama say, even if you turn your back to them in the same bed, this is sufficient. Third, beat them. Now, here come all the tafsir. They're saying to beat them lightly and beat them with a miswak or a feather. Dude, you need to, I was going to say, you need to marry one of these masculine women. Yeah, sheikh. Get you one of these masculine ones. Get you one of these masculine women in a masculine frame, and then rewrite your tafsir. Rewrite your fatwa after that. Dudes are getting shot and stabbed. They're getting their head busted to the white meat. They have burn marks on their body and scratches. There's DNA inside of her nails, her fake nails, her acrylic nails, where she dug into that man, tried to deform him. I'm just saying, that's what we're dealing with, okay? So, we're talking about policing the Kufr state of domestic violence. Islamically, domestic violence is not out of control in an Islamic society. Of course, we don't have an Islamic society today. We have better neighborhoods today than some neighborhoods. Living amongst the Muslims here and there, then a masjid on every block is a better neighborhood. But there's no system of Islam today. Okay, so there is no epidemic domestic violence except that we stop instituting the system. The system, okay, the system that protects men and women. We stop instituting the system. But domestic violence with Muslims, as Muslims Islamically, is not epidemic like it is with the Kufar, and definitely the ones that enjoy right and forbid wrong, the what we call the haram police that everybody tends to knock and make fun of, which is actually an Islamic institution. Those individuals are upstanding citizens, not like the haram police in Saudi who would catch you in a car making zina and then say, hey, unless you do to me what you did to him, I'm going to arrest y'all. Or something like that. These are real incidents. I'm not saying all of them are like that, but they all work for the oppressor. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Somebody got to take the trash out. Nevertheless, so Islamically, it wouldn't be epidemic because, see, we wouldn't rely on 911 to settle our disputes. There's the wali. There are brothers. There are uncles on both sides of the family that could easily be called, that will stand for justice and not stand for male versus female or vice versa. So both can be held accountable for, abusing. This is what Muslims, even living in Dar Kufr, should do, is rely on community standards. Now I've known there have been groups formed to protect sisters. There are no groups to protect brothers, except maybe from violence on the street by gangs and things like that. But there are no groups to protect brothers or husbands, husbands. The groups were formed to protect the women. And this is in New York and I think I heard in Philly and stuff like that. There were groups, and even here, there were groups formed that if a sister called in distress, brothers would go and bang heads. You know, well, that you should not have a group of brothers that's ready to go and go beat up another Muslim brother, because y'all don't do nothing else. Who else do y'all beat up? You know, so you comfortable beating up a Muslim brother? You go to the wrong Muslim brother house, all y'all gonna get sprayed. You know, coming in my house, trying to regulate something. Now, if my wife is truly in danger, you know, that's a whole different situation. But just because somebody called you and said he's acting crazy, he's throwing things, it's my things. I can throw them if I want to. I don't, can't afford to buy new ones, so I'm not gonna be throwing my things. But if I did, it's my stuff. If I slam doors, these are my doors, you know. But nevertheless, these groups were formed by Muslim brothers to go and handle these domestic situations so that sisters wouldn't be compelled to call the police. But these groups were formed with the wrong intention, is to correct the brother. What about the 60-40? What about the false accusation? Sister called me because I was one of those hands-on imams for like almost 20 years. I was one of those hands-on imams. I used to settle family things. I used to marital things. I collect dowries that were promised that didn't. Gave it to the sister. I almost got shot between my darn eyes, defending an ex-wife from her aggressive ex-husband. Almost got shot. In front of a gun, trying to protect her. All kind of different instances. Okay. Nevertheless, sister called me, said, "Hey, my husband just tried to roll over me with a car." The brother was a taxi driver, brother. He looked like Mr. Clean, bald head. He was ripped, and he drove cabs. And he called me. I mean, his wife called me and said, "Hey, my husband just tried to roll over me with the car," because I was that hands-on man. I call him, "Assalamu alaikum, man. Your wife just called me with some disturbing accusation." "What's that, bro?" She said, "You tried to roll over her with the car." He said, "Man, I was trying to leave. I ain't trying to argue with her. I'm trying to leave. She runs and dives behind the back wheel of the car." He said, "Man, I almost hit my wife, bro. I almost killed my wife with the car. But that's not something I was trying to do. She did that." I called the sister. I say, "Sister, did you jump under the back wheels of that car while he was moving, backing out the driveway?" "Yeah." See, this is a big problem now. If she would have called the committee of head banging brothers and didn't call me, who was going to actually get both sides of the story like Islam says to do, them brothers would have probably went there and tried to handle that brother. But hey, that brother, I wasn't scared of him, but I don't think that's a brother you want to be walking up to, not even in committee. I'm saying, not even in committee. Brother, real quiet. He don't bother nobody. So hey, but it ain't one of them brothers. So when they form these committees are only to protect the sisters, which is fine. But don't call it the Islamic head buster group, whatever. It's always some funny intention that they have when they form these groups. It's not fair. We are all living in this kufr state. If we as Muslims are calling the police, it's kind of it's hypocritical, it's inconsistent. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsensical. You know what I'm saying? Because they are the number one abusers of their own women folk, their own family folk. And we're calling them to settle our disputes. You say, well, what other alternative do we have as sisters? What other alternatives do we have as brothers? Well, we need to be more community oriented, not just relying on the imam, but for sisters that have a father, uncle, or brother, you have a forever wali. If you have an old enough son, If that guy is that out of control, then there are measures to take if he's that out of control. But but it's, like I say, I'm trying to stay. I said I was gonna do the mildest. I simped out, and I went with two different scenarios. I decided to do the mildest of them. But anyway, Brother Jawad said, I've seen these committees, and it always seems to point to men as the aggressors. Yes, 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 exactly. And the point I'm making with this is that we have to seek Islamic solution in everything that we do. Even if we don't have a state as of now, we cannot allow the kuffar to handle our affairs above and beyond what we are compelled. Allah Ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhaladina amanu, la tatakidhu yahud wa nasara awliya. Okay? O you who believe, do not take the Jews and Christians as organizers of your affairs, your protectors, the ones that sustain you with food and drink. That's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be handling our own affairs. And we're not doing so. And we call the number one abuser to handle matters of domestic abuse in our home, whether it's male to female or female to male, because there are sisters that abuse brothers. I know it for a fact. There are sisters that abuse brothers. There are brothers that abuse sisters. But when you go into it and you conference and you mediate and you find out the facts, it's a whole nother animal. And I'm gonna leave with one incident or one example that happened on the Kevin Samuel show, and which was very telling. But Brother Jawad says, do you think it's a lack of understanding of female nature? Uh, yeah, because women are given rope. They're given rope that men are not given. If a Sahabi told the Rasul Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "You are not the prophet anymore," he would be considered an apostate. During the time of the Rasul Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Sahaba, right, anhum would have wanted to separate his head from his neck, or separate his neck from his shoulders, however they do it. Heads would have rolled, or a head would have rolled. But when Aisha radiallahu anha got mad at the Rasul Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as his wife, she got mad and said, "You're not the prophet anymore," knowing very well he's the Rasul of Allah Ta'ala. That's what Rasulullah means. He's the Rasul of Allah Ta'ala. But see, when women are here, they want us here. And until we get here, they won't do this. When they're on 10, they want us on 10. And that's true for all women. That's true for all women. Whether they are wives of Rasul Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or the common wives that we have today. Okay? If they're on 10, they want you on 10. And until you reach there, the comedian Bill Burr has a funny instance where his wife is trying to get him to argue, and he don't want to argue. So she's popping him upside the head, popping him upside the head, popping him upside the head while he's on the computer. He jumps up and says, "You want to fight? All right, let's do it. Let's do it. You want to argue? Let's do it. Not fight, but you want to argue? Let's do it." She said, "Wow, I'll talk to you later when you calm down." It's hilarious. But this is actually what happens in a lot of different instances. When they are here and you start roaring or barking, then they'll come here and say, "Well, I'll talk to you later when you calm down." They want you to feel, they want you to emote. They want you to feel or exude or display the emotion that they are experiencing. But to the Kevin Samuels thing, in order to bring it to a close, a woman called and said she divorced her husband. That's the majority, okay? She divorced her husband. Why? Well, we were okay for this period of time, but then he got physical, so I called it quits. I'm not putting up with that. He got physical. What did he do? Well, he got physical. No, we don't. He said we don't do this we don't do this on this show. I need some facts. I don't just automatically think a man, is abusive. So give me some facts. Let's talk about it. She said, well, things got out of hand. He grabbed me, and I'm not putting up with that. Kevin Samuel said, what led him to do that? What was going on? Give me what was going on, and she wasn't too forthcoming. So he said, were you being disrespectful verbally? Were you calling him out of his name? Were you, explain what was going on? She said, well, yeah, I was. Remember, I started talking about Texas law because I'm familiar with it, not too familiar with other states. I said that if you hurt their feelings, it's considered abuse in Texas. You know, if you call her fat, so on and so forth, it's considered abuse in Texas. If she deems it as abuse, she can accuse you of domestic violence, and you'll go through the same thing as a man that actually close-fisted his wife. She admitted calling him, and you know how disrespectful some certain women can be. You know, I'll say black women, but I don't know about the other races how disrespectful they can be as far as talking. But I know black women can go there. Okay, talking down on a man, he got angry. He popped. He snapped. He didn't snap her neck, but he grabbed her or whatever he did. And Kevin Samuels asked her, "Is verbal abuse abuse itself? Is emotional abuse abuse itself?" She said, "Well, yeah." He said, "What leaves a longer scar, emotional abuse or physical altercation?" She says, "Emotional." He said, "So you abused him and he abused you back." And she like, "I never looked at it that way." See, this is the problem. I'm going to tell you within myself, this is personal experience. I have hit people, not saying wives. One of my ex-wives is in the room. She can tell you no physical violence here, between us. So, uh, like the brother asked, could some women bring that out? Yes, yes. A woman in a masculine frame, Brother Jawad asked that. A woman in a masculine frame, some women could take men to that level of aggression. But nevertheless, so, man, this masculine frame is something that is not natural for a woman. You know, uh, like I say personally, my experience, I have hit people without knowing I was going to hit them or making a conscious decision, hit them. And it's because I was taken to a point and I snapped. It happens. It happens. You get taken to a point and you snap. And this was with dudes. We were in a gladiator type environment, and this actually happened. You can't push people. You, as a woman, you can't push a man, disrespect a man, so on and so forth. And then when he blows up, you say you should have had more control. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, heck, well, who was talking to him like that? You know, not saying he would have snapped and what have you, but and there's one hadith I quote it amongst people that know, but I don't talk about it generally on a platform like this. You know why? Y'all ain't ready. Y'all ain't ready. Especially those that have a victim mentality, male or female. They have a victim mentality, not ready, not ready for full truths. And you have to omit certain things for these people. Not that it's going to harm them or they need to hear it, but there is some delusion going on in this ummah. We need to start handling our own affairs. We need to handle our own affairs so much. We have our own system that protects us, that feeds us, and that implements Islam upon us, and that carries Islam to other nations. That's called the Dola of Islam. That's called Darul Islam. That's called the Khilafah. That's what that's called. That's what we need to have. But because we live in Kufr societies, we're going to be affected by everything that the Kuffar go through. So that the Muslim sister that knows when she remarries, she's supposed to give that child over to the father, she won't do it because the Kufr state will protect her. That sister that knows that uh, he's going over his second wife house, a third wife house, and she don't like it too much, she can call the police and say, "Yeah, he just hit me." You know. Oh, she's gonna be full of regrets. When he divorced and he's no longer there with her, she'll think about all of the good that was with him before he exercised an option that Allah Ta'ala gave him. That's what she'll think about. But nevertheless, the topic was policing the Kufr state of domestic violence. Uh, Islamically, we don't have that problem. Our women act within their masculine frame, and when they uncharacteristically act outside of their act outside of their feminine frame, excuse me, uh, when they act outside of their feminine frame, then we can understand it's an anomaly. But acting outside of your feminine frame does not rise to the level of an-nushuz, where you are, as the old blues song talk about, where Al Green talking about throwing hot grits, on your husband, or doing whatever, of violence toward that man, because men are abused as well. Like the sister said, we very seldom report it, but we are indeed abused as well, and women are also abused, and they are the gender that must be protected. They are the gender of protection. So men should not be overly aggressive or abusing a woman, Muslim or non-Muslim. But we're talking about Muslims because we have the structure, we have the guidance. They don't have it. They don't have it. These are the ones that kill their wives and bury them in the backyard. That happens. But women also plot with other family members or the new boyfriend to kill, the current husband, stage a fake carjacking or something. I mean, this happens for the insurance money. This actually happens. So relationships are in a bad state. Why? Because Muslims are in a bad state. Why? Because we don't implement the state of Islam. From the top to the bottom, we're not practicing Islam. We're just a bunch of Muslim individuals right now. Even in our lands, our armies are not used to protect us. Our armies are used to kill and regulate us. I'll go there real quick. When you talk about a two-state solution for Palestine, do you know what's part of that two-state solution? Do you know what free Palestine actually means? It means freeing them to practice democracy, not Islam. Not to establish Islam, to practice democracy. You know what Palestinians are? They are Jew, Christian, and Muslim. So therefore, the government is going to be Jew, Christian, and Muslim government over Palestine. Because there are Jews that don't like the Zionist state, so they're going to be on the Muslim Christian side, and that's going to be a pluralistic government. No God is better than the other God. Everybody's ruling by democracy, and Allah is, their practice ilmaniya or secularism. Allah is in a corner in a masjid if you need him. That's the philosophy. A free Palestinian state means that when something goes boom, the Palestinian Authority will handle those Muslims that do that. That the Zionists will be like, look, if you don't want us doing it, y'all better handle y'all folks. Y'all better handle them. That's what that means. It doesn't equal Islam. And actually, a two-state solution is actually haram. So we are not in a proper state of mind, a state of existence, the states of our relationships, the Islamic state. We're not in a proper state, and we're going to continue to suffer until what? We return to Islam as a system. I don't care how many religious, thobe-wearing, kufi-bearing Muslims that you know, until we turn to Islam as a system, we're going to be under the Kufar system, and our lands will continue to support the Kufar systems over us. This is our state, and we need to police it ourselves from the top to the bottom. This has been your brother Saudi Mam for Ex-Faktly. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.